Archie. So thank you for showing up. In fact, let me introduce, and I'm assuming it's Angeles. Are you pronouncing it, or I want to be sure I say your name right?
Yeah, Angelus, either one is fine.
Either one. Okay, I'll say Angeles because I can say it. So, okay, so our panelists, and there's Atsima. It's nice to see you. It's been a while.
Likewise, yes, it has.
Yeah, it's good to see you. So we're going to discuss how do I effectively interview a graduate program, and what's the reason that we're doing that now is that next week at this time we're going to have our graduate fair, and I'm sure most of you are intending to be there, and it's going to be set up on this format. You'll be able to go into rooms, and hopefully we'll set up either a Zoom or what do they call that thing? The Google version of that, the chat, so that you'll be able to do a video chat with individuals. So it should be a really full-featured program. And we always at the Field of Dreams have folks like you have in front of you now who are going to tell you the best way to be good consumers as you go around to these graduate programs. I remember telling a student many years ago that the thing you need to keep in mind when you go look at graduate programs is always to remember that you're not wondering whether you're good enough for them, you're wondering whether they're good enough for you. So they're going to tell you how to be good consumers, and I'm going to let you take it away. I should have said this is David Angeles, who's at Ohio State and graduate student, and Atsima Martinez. And where are you now? Are you still at Washington University?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Take it away.
All right. Well, thank you for introducing us. I'll just start again with a short little introduction. My name is Atsima Martinez. As Dr. Kutsko said, I'm a second-year PhD student in mathematics at Washington University in St. Louis. I'm studying topology, and I'm originally from Washington State, and I'm now in Missouri in St. Louis. So David, do you want to?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is David Angeles. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California. I did my bachelor's degree in mathematics and pure mathematics at Cal State University Northridge. Between my junior year and senior year in the summer, I did a summer program in biostatistics, which kind of opened that door for me. And I found out about it through the Field of Dreams, actually. And that's why I decided to do biostatistics. So I pursued a PhD in biostatistics. I am right now at the Ohio State University. I am a third-year biostatistics PhD student. And one of the things, so I guess we should just kind of dive into what we're going to talk about today. And one of the main things that, we really want to focus on is you've got a lot of information about, how to get your application ready. And then once you're there, what to look for. But then it's really important, aside from choosing your advisor and getting help on making your application, making sure that you find a program that is the right fit for you. And in this next week for the graduate fair, I will also be there. Here, that's my plug. I'll be at the booth for the Ohio State University. You always have to remember that, like Phil said, you are interviewing them as well. You are making sure that they are a good fit for you. And why should you go to their program, right? You're interviewing them. That's the idea. So you have to really focus on the program itself and not just the school. Don't just focus on the name of the school. Don't just, I know you hear it all the time. People go to top schools and the program itself is not, a good fit for them. So that's very, very crucial for you guys to consider. Really kind of get your head out of that space of like, oh, just because of the name of the school, don't think that just because it's like a top school, it will be a perfect fit. Many times you have to make sure that it fits what you need. And that's why next, what we're going to talk about is what things do you need? You have to list out what are things that are important to you, that are essential to have in a graduate program. And Atimba is going to talk about a few things that we consider, especially as minority students, things that other people may not think about. So Atimba, can you kind of go over a little bit of the things that we have to consider when going to a graduate program, wherever it may be?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that's most important is making a list of things that are important to you as an individual. What do you want from the graduate school? One of the things that was important to me was the financial support and the cost of living to stipend ratio. Was the stipend that was going to be provided good enough for me to live a comfortable life and not have to worry about the stress of figuring out how to pay my rent and how to buy groceries while I'm already in a stressful situation where I'm in graduate school. That was not something that I wanted to worry about. So I needed to know, is the stipend going to be enough to support me in this place that I choose to move to? Another thing that I thought was also important was getting connected to graduate students. I think it's not a bad thing, but faculty are usually selling their program. They want to bring students to their program. And so it's important to be able to connect with graduate students who are already there so that you can ask questions and that they can just really be honest with you about either the community that's in that program, the size of the program, about different instructors and different faculty that you might be considering as potential advisors. So it's important to ask those questions early on to graduate students who are already going through that experience, who are actually there and experiencing that program firsthand. Another thing that was really important to me was the size of the program. I wanted to be in a place where I felt I wouldn't be lost in the crowd. That was really important to me because I love mathematics and it's really hard for me. So I feel like I'm always working 3 times as harder than most people to be able to understand maybe a simple concept or a concept that people think is simple. And I knew that I would need a little bit more support. And so I wanted a program where it was small enough to where I would be able to easily obtain that. So the size of the program was really important. Also to build community. As I said before, I knew that I was going to need lots of support. And the smaller the program, I think, the easier it is to make friends. You kind of just have to get to know each other and form study groups with each other because you're all in the same classes. And so those are some things that were really important to me that you might want to think about as well when interviewing a graduate program and or graduate school. David, would you also like to talk about some things that were important?
So for me, aside from what she mentioned, I think healthcare was really important. I hadn't had healthcare for 5 years. I was always paying the fee. So that was very important to me. I want to make sure my health is good, especially with all the things that happen in grad school. You never know. One thing that wasn't as much of an issue for me, but it is an issue for a lot of people who I have talked to, is diversity. They want a program to be very diverse. But at the same time, you also have to keep in mind that the efforts that the programs are putting into including diversity, because many times in my case, in my university, I was the first Hispanic to attend the university. However, the program spent a lot of efforts into continuing to recruit students, and now we have doubled those numbers, whereas before, a couple years back, the effort wasn't there. I saw the change in the program, and I saw the effort that the program was putting in. So just because the program doesn't have so much diversity, it wasn't the biggest factor for me. I was willing to, take one for the team and help build the diversity in my program. But if diversity is a factor for you, that is something you should consider asking. How diverse is your program? How many people who look like me have graduated your program? Those are questions that you want to ask them, and they should be able to provide those answers for you. And the more transparent and upfront they are about it, the better it is. My program was like, hey, we haven't had it, but we are really seeking people from all backgrounds, and we're willing to work with everybody and have a good environment for them to grow. So I like that about the program, and that's just something that you have to, as an individual, have to list out, figure it out, and ask. Make sure you're asking these questions.
Yeah, so I think since we're running out of time a little bit, the thing that I want to highlight is take this week to make a list of things that are important to you. prioritize things, order that list, have things at the top of the list, and make sure that you're able to ask those questions about the things that are most important to you and you need answers to before you decide.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to ask these tough questions. You have, obviously start off very generic. Hi, how are you? Tell me more about your program. About the resources you guys have, any student contacts. But then say, hey, I did have a couple questions of things that are that I want to know about personally, to help facilitate my decision. Start like that. Don't just be like, hey, how many Hispanic students do you guys have? Start that conversation off nicely. They're gonna tell you about the program. You just be like, what can you tell me about your program? And then you bring out your list. So coming up with a list or coming in with the list, you already show that you're serious and that you actually want to know whether or not they check off these boxes. And then so that's how it's a good way to kind of start the conversation, and then bring up the fact that you have some concerns and to help you make that decision. Yeah, and just ask them. Don't be shy.
Yeah.
This is great. Thank you very much to both of you. Stay around. I want to ask some questions of you, some questions from the chats. I did want to make one general comment, and I hope, listen closely, folks. So as you know, those of you who are going to graduate school or planning to go to graduate school in the fall, we have a program in the Alliance. I think about half the people here are in that program, but some of you are not, that we call FGAP, which stands for Facilitated Graduate Admissions Program. I think both of you were through it, huh? If I'm not wrong.
I was on it, yeah.
Both of you were through it, yes. So that answers a lot of the questions that are in the chat if you're an FGAP. So for example, some of the questions are, should you, will your mentor at your home school help you pick which schools that you should visit next week? But of course, if you're an FGAP, you have what we call a facilitator, which is a doctoral faculty member that you're already working with who can help you with that. And in general, will help you through this whole process. So those of you who are in the room, who for one reason or another weren't contacted or with the whole virtual thing, we got a little bit slower, would you please send somebody at the Alliance? You can send it to me, you can send it to David Goldberg. Let us know right away that you would still like to be part of FGAP, and we'll make sure that you're in it, and hopefully maybe we can get you in before the graduate fair. But even if we can't, it'll be very valuable to you. So I just wanted to comment on that. And then let me ask you some of the questions that were asked, although I think part of it is if you're an FGAP, it'll be a lot easier. But let's suppose a student hasn't heard about FGAP, and one of the students wanted to know, how would you prioritize the schools that you would visit? So in other words, you're going to go in next week, let's suppose, and there may be 40, 50 graduate programs that are going to be there. And which ones, if you have an hour, which ones are you going to go to visit first, and how will you pick them?
I would say if you make that list that we mentioned before of things that are important to you, it is going to take some research on your part ahead of time. Go to their websites. Some of them already have answers to a lot of questions, and you can start building your list that way. This school answered a lot of my questions, and it makes me really want to think about going there. Maybe I have a little bit more questions, and I'm going to go visit that school for that reason.
Yeah. In my case, it was a little easier since I wanted biostatistics or statistics programs, so I went to those booths that were, there weren't that many of them in the program as well. Whether you're looking for a master's or a PhD, there's going to be some master's programs or some booths there just talking about their master's program. Well, you wouldn't go to that booth. If there's, for example, like a team that's in topology, a program that really emphasizes topology, maybe you're going to go to that booth first. So again, it comes down to your needs. What do you want? What do you want and need from a graduate program? Check out, and that's why you have your list, and then you do a little bit of research on the school, and then figure it out, and then ask those questions. Once you have those questions then you can order what school you want to apply to based on which one satisfied or checked off the most amount of boxes for you.
Right. What kinds of questions? I know one, I think Simba already mentioned. What are other questions that would if you were a good consumer. Like when we go buy a car, we go in and there are things that if we're smart, we know to ask about cars, right? And sometimes a dealer is going to tell us something, but if we ask a more precise question, we get the answer we're looking for. What are the kinds of questions, as you mentioned, diversity is a very good one. You said what the climate is like, right? Questions like that, what kinds of questions would you, especially looking back on it now, are the key questions to ask these folks, to put them through their paces, to make sure that they tell you everything that you need to know?
Looking back, one of the questions that I would have asked, again, it depends on how much you need, but how flexible is the program for taking maybe courses outside the department?
Good.
So some programs are very, very course intensive, and they tailor your program based on your choice. And they'll give you choices. You can choose like a methodology track, or like in my case, a public health track. But then each track is very tailored. You don't have much wiggle room. Other programs are like, you just need these 10 courses, and you need to fill the other 10 with whatever you want. That's a very important question to ask, depending on what you want. I felt like I needed more guidance since I didn't have an understanding of statistics or biostatistics. I was coming from a math background, so I really needed them to just tell me, take this, take this, take this, take this. Other people want more hands-off approach. I want to decide. So you have to figure out that, but ask that question, and then you'll get a good answer. And then, like Atsima said, the cost of living. Some places are really expensive in California versus in the Midwest, let's say. So that's.
Atsima, what about you?
I would say things like average graduation rate. You know, how long does it take? How many people are graduating? And when they do graduate, job placement, ask about job placement, specifically in the area where you're thinking you might want to work in. These are things that I wasn't thinking about when I was getting accepted into schools, because I was just worried about the next step. Okay, I got accepted, now I have to go somewhere. I wasn't thinking about when I graduate, what am I going to do? And I think that's very important to think about right now before you accept. Where people who graduate from the program that you're potentially going to be at, where are they working now? So that would be something else that I would add.
Let me ask you another question, Atsima, because you and I talked about this. I remember very well when you were looking at graduate programs. Tell the folks about, there are choices now between starting in a master's program and then entering a PhD program when you finish, starting in a post-bac program as you have at Washington University. We're all now developing, I should make a little plug here, especially from the fact that you're from Los Angeles, David, is that we now have a sort of a pilot program to develop, to use the Cal State schools to develop master's programs that act as post-bac programs, and we're hoping to see more of those. So there's more and more of an opportunity now for different sorts of entry paths into graduate school. And I know you and I talked about that a fair amount at SEMA, if I remember. So you want to tell folks a little bit about that and how you made your personal choice and how they should be thinking about those things? That would be great.
Yeah, definitely. So a little bit more about my background. I went to a university in Washington State, located very central Washington in a little town called Toppenish, Washington. I was one of 2 math majors at my university. And we didn't have any professors who were PhD professors. And so going into graduate school, or starting to apply to graduate school, I had this fear that I wasn't prepared. I wasn't ready. And I had never really been in a classroom where I could compare myself to other students, other mathematicians. And I knew that I needed that before I really put myself into a graduate program. And so one of the things that I wanted to do was start a little bit smaller. And that's when I was put in touch with Dr. Kutsko, and he introduced me to post-bac programs. I didn't know that those were actual programs, but I went to the Field of Dreams, was introduced to Professor Ferris, and he talked to me about the post-bac program, and just hearing about the amount of support that was going to be applied, how small that program was. We had a cohort of 4 people, and the focus was just getting adjusted to graduate school, or getting adjusted to graduate school without necessarily having the requirements of graduate school. So I was able to take a graduate course in algebra, which was where I felt I had more preparation, and also take some undergraduate courses to support the subjects that I didn't feel I was ready to attack at a graduate level, mainly real analysis for myself and measure theory. So the postbac program was a perfect stepping stone for me to go into a graduate program. I was able to participate in that program for 2 years, obtain my master's through it, and matriculated into their PhD program. I was accepted because I had shown that I was capable, and I also was able to build my own confidence in mathematics and really gave myself a strong foundation in mathematics to be able to succeed in a graduate program. So there are some out there. You do have to do a little bit of research, but they are there if you feel that you might need a little bit extra help or just a better foundation.
This is great. And we have a list somewhere. And if you check with the Math Alliance, just drop us a note. I think we know pretty much all of the programs in the country now. We had to do some work to do that. So people who want to ask, just let us know. I have one last question for David. You went to Northridge, right? If I remember right? Good.
Yes.
And you were a pure math major.
I did a pure math major, and I also did a teaching credential program as well. So my undergrad was like 6 years. Yeah.
Okay, so my question is, it used to be, it's not the case so much, luckily, anymore, that when we started doing the Alliance, we saw and learned that the students who were pure math majors, rarely found their way to biostat, which was exactly where you needed to go. That's the place you like being, right? Could you tell us a little bit about how that process works? There may be people listening to us who are at four-year schools. Master's programs are a little easier at Northridge, but at some of the historically black schools, for example, or some of the other four-year schools, where they've never heard the word statistics. That is to say, they've had math courses. They don't know what biostatistics is. They don't know about data science. How did you personally find out about those things? And these folks who are going to be going around next week, how would you advise them in this next week to take a little bit of a crash course to see if that might be something that interests them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I had no idea what statistics was. I barely knew what a p-value was going into my PhD program. And that's very common for many people. So don't feel that just because you don't know any statistics doesn't mean that you can't succeed in these programs. They actually look for a good, solid math background. So they actually look at your real analysis class, your matrix algebra classes, how well you did in those. They really want to see that you have a solid foundation because they believe that if you have a solid math foundation, you can do the statistics. So the way I found out about biostatistics was actually thanks to the first time I went to the Field of Dreams. One of the speakers they had was a phenomenal speaker. His name, I think, is Dr. Robert Pang. He basically did a 1 hour talk about what biostatistics was, why we need people in biostatistics, and he really talked about how biostatistics encompasses a little bit of computer science, a little bit of math, and a little bit of public health. And to me, that was perfect because I really like math, but maybe not too deep of a level. But I was still in the pure math program, so I like it enough. I like a little bit of computer science, but I only took a few courses. I think I only took one intro course, and the rest I kind of picked it up. So I was like, and I'm really interested in public health and policy and politics. So I felt like it was something that really kind of just put it all together, and it just made me want to do it. I was like, I don't know what that is, what that word biostatistics is, but I'm gonna look for a program. So my first thing I did, I was still a junior, so I had 1 year left, and I decided that I was gonna apply to REUs, and some of you are gonna be at the REU fair. So I went looking for an REU in biostatistics. So I was fortunate enough to get into the biostatistics summer program at the School of Public Health at Harvard, and they have a phenomenal program. Again, they tailor it for underrepresented minorities. Another shameless plug: if you see that program, do not be afraid to apply. Right. They are phenomenal in that program, right. And they did everything they could to make me realize that, hey, maybe this is the program for me. So I came back to my university, finished my senior year project, which was actually in theoretical math, which I never used again. But then I made my application. I applied to 4 schools. I got accepted to Ohio, and I felt that that was the program for me. I checked out the school, asked all the questions that were important to me. They checked off all of my boxes, and I decided to go to that program. So my advice is, if you still have time, do an REU. Definitely look for REUs if that's even an interest. You don't lose anything. You do 6 weeks. They'll pay you to do the program and everything. And if you like it, look for programs. Many PhD programs are accepting people with, even just a math background, engineering background. One of my friends was just in chemistry. He had never done an epsilon delta proof in his life, and he got into a PhD in biostats, because of his test scores. So that was it. You just have to kind of show that you are willing to work hard and do it, and they'll accept you and they'll work with you to improve.
This is great. I want to thank both of you very much. It's great to see you again, and it's good to see folks coming through the Alliance and getting where they're going. And just stay here. There's no reason for you to leave unless you want to. I'm just going to make a couple of closing remarks. I think I've said pretty much what I wanted to say. We're so pleased that you were all here. Don't let this COVID thing hold you down. You got to go to graduate school. As I've written to many of you, 10 years from now, it's going to make a difference. Who's there, who's not. I always get choked up. I'm an old guy. So I just want to let you know, stick with it. Don't let this stuff, these new methods and everything are very good for communicating, and make sure you get where you're going. Come to the fair next week. And what I'm told to tell you now is that over the next hour or so, all of these rooms are going to stay open, and you all know how to use it better than I, but feel free to go in any of them and get to know each other and have chats and stuff like that. And I'll stay right here in this room, or maybe I should move my younger folks will tell me what I'm supposed to do, but I'll move myself somewhere. If any of you want to chat with me, just come find me. Thanks so much. Thanks to both of you, and have a great day. Okay now, bye-bye.
I also put my contact information on the chat.
Where do you see it? I can't see the chat. Where is it?
On the top left, I just click on chat in auditorium. I guess
top
my
left. Oh, I see.
names are going.
I had that all the time. There it is. Okay. All right. Good. I can see
I
that.
just want to leave that there. I always tell people to contact me. Feel free to contact me, because I know this process is scary, especially for those who want to do biostats.
Yes, indeed. I'm going to put my email here so that people can contact me too. If anyone wants to get in touch with me, just go ahead and write, and we'll get you where you're going.
So for those of you still in the room, I had a wild idea. Right now, lots of classes are being offered just online. Like, we are not teaching in person. So if you find yourself wanting to take a class like in statistics or real analysis or linear algebra or something like that, and it's not offered at your school, hey, hit us up. I taught a real analysis course, like the first semester real analysis over the summer. I was teaching from Southern California. I had students in San Francisco Bay Area, the Bay Area, San Diego, and even Texas. So I had students from all over the place, and we could do it. It's a weird, strange new world we're living in right now. So,
John, let me ask you a question about that. John, let me ask you a question, because I was just talking to Kendra Middleton. She's doing something that's quite, again, this great opportunity. She's a professor at Howard. I mean, she's an educational stat, got a PhD at Iowa, and she now decided that she'd like to get a PhD in math while she's already tenured there, which is wonderful. And so what she's doing is she's taking online courses because of COVID, right? And one of the great things that I think would be really good for folks is once these courses are given, they're recorded. So if you can look at the recording, you can listen to 5 minutes and stop it and reflect on what was said and listen to another 5 minutes. So are these recordings of these courses available generally, or are there ways that we could maybe be building archives of those things? What do you think about that?
I think that would be a big hurdle for us at Cal Poly because of privacy issues. It was actually a really big concern. For instance, we're not allowed to post our recordings on YouTube.
Oh,
because the students have signed up to be in the class, but not signed up to be part of some video that gets posted elsewhere.
okay.
So we had to put a stop to that. So unfortunately, no. I think that would be a great idea, but what's available, and I think it hasn't really been fully formalized, but there are like entities called Extended University or Open University or something like this, and it gives students from other campuses to come to, say, Cal Poly Pomona or whatever campus and enroll in a course even though you're not technically a student at that university. So that is an option, but it's full enrollment, like you'd have to pay tuition and everything like that, but it's a possibility. But yeah, no, there wouldn't be a way, not that I can see, there wouldn't be a way to like have my lectures become publicly available. Yeah, I'd get in trouble for that.
Yeah. We need to think, I guess, as we move forward, because once we begin to think about it, we can form a team of folks around the country that could maybe just give one lecture, for example, in real analysis.
Mm-hmm.
For example, you want to explain why you need measure theory would be an example, right? What the history of that is and all the Riemann-Stieltjes integrals and all that kind of thing. You could sort of leave that for somebody who just wanted to get past that hurdle. They were thinking,
Mm-hmm.
oh, measure theory, oh my God, I can't even begin to think. And you say, well, look, if you know this and that and the other thing, this will get you through that hurdle, and then you can go back and study sort of what they call it in time stuff. They call it these days,
Yeah.
just in time, right? I wonder if we couldn't start to develop resources like that, where it would be not too much burden on any given faculty member to give maybe one lecture that would be just in time, and then anywhere in the country when a person was about to take real analysis, they could just look at that lecture. Something like that is something to think about. Yeah.
I think that'd be great. We might be able to make that work. It's weird, right? To even be thinking about these types of ideas. This was nowhere on my radar like a year and a half ago.
No, of course not. No, it's a whole. It's in some sense it's what we hope for, right? Because certainly the old structure, the lecture discussion structure, and just everything being written down at all times, and the primary source would be a textbook. There's no reason it needs to be that way now, right? We've got many more resources. And one of the things I say to all of you who are still here, and that's something that we look forward to in the future, is we've always felt that with our minority community, if we could do cutting edge stuff, if we could do the things that usually, I mean, to be literal about it, when we were kids, minority folks got textbooks after everyone else. For example, they'd be in a grade school, and the white kids in the white school would have brand new textbooks, and they would get handed over. Believe it or not, I know you can hardly imagine a thing like that, but they would get handed over to the minority schools, which is just hard to imagine. And so that reliance on secondhand things has characterized the education we provided to students of color for a long time. If we could turn that around and provide the very newest and the very most effective sorts of education, that would be a game changer, I think, in the high schools, for example, right? So I think if we think that way about where are we going now, and what's the new pedagogical things going on, and if we can provide that first to the minority community at every level, I think that would be just a tremendous thing. So that's something to think about for you young folks as you go forward. Any of you who want to stay here or go, don't feel obliged to stay. I'm happy to see you all here. I can actually see how many people are here, which is wonderful. It's a large room to chat, I guess. If somebody wanted to turn on their we could try it. Yeah, Rolando. Oh, were you going to say something?
Oh yeah, just thought I'd say that, you know, if people want to know more about my personal graduate school experience, I'm going to jump into room 7. I know there's a lot of conversations going, but I'm just going to promote myself. All right.
Good. Okay. Anyone who wants to go hear Rolando, that's a hell of a story. Heck of a story that Rolando's got. So go ahead, Rolando. Okay, room 7 for Rolando. Anybody else want to pop up and say where they're going?
How do I go into a room?
That's easy. You go to the room, put your cursor on the room, and click it twice. And then you're in that room. Unless it's a closed room. And then I think you have to knock on the door. But if you go to an empty room and just click the cursor twice there, and you should, does it work?
But they have a name on them.
I don't think it matters. I think you just go. I think I'm going to try it and come back and see what happens.
Yeah, okay. I'll just announce in case anybody wants to see me. I'm gonna go just jump over into extra room F.
Extra room F. So this is,
All right,
you
so
already
I'm
know.
gonna go there now if anybody wants to come.
Yeah, he has to stay indoors because of the snow.
Oh, I see it. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna go to extra room B. If anyone just wants to chat a little bit, I'll be there for, I don't know, a good 10 minutes extra. Just maybe I can answer some more personal questions if someone just wants to know a little bit more about biostats. I know this is very math heavy, but there are a few who might want to do.
No, we want more and more people to look at biostats because these are the kids who haven't had the chance to hear about it yet. So please, David, what room are you going to be in?
B extra, the extra room B. I think it's on
Extra room
right
B.
next to the auditorium. It's like right on the left side.
All right. Good to see you.
All right, thank you so much for inviting me.
Okay, you bet. Bye-bye now.
Okay.
Anybody else want to say a room that they're going to that they want the people chat in? Okay. Anyone want to say something to me? Just put on your mic so we can talk. I bet we can do all right in here. Hello.
Hi, Phil. Thanks. This is Bruce Resnick.
Oh, Bruce, good to see you, man.
Good to see you.
Bruce, I should just tell folks, Bruce is at the University of Illinois.
I had a nice chat with the potential grad student.
Can you put your sound up a little higher, or is it me?
I listen to music in my office, so I usually keep the volume very low.
It's hard to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I think you're getting an echo or something, Bruce. These things don't work as well as they should.
No. Well, I'll just say hi and go on to the other wonderful things that I have to do this afternoon.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much for coming. We'll probably see you at the fair next week, I'm imagining.